Welcome back to Smarter Green Living. Imagine a house with solar panels in July. At 1 p.m, the panels are producing electricity. The washing machine is running. The phone is charging. The smart meter looks impressive. Your energy use is low and cheaper. Now imagine that same house at 7:30 p.m. in January. It's dark. The oven is on. The heating system is working harder. Lights are on. The television is on. Laptops are charging. Your household's demand has risen at the exact moment the panels are generating little or nothing. That gap when solar power is generated and when you actually need energy is where the biggest lie about solar power begins. And the lie is that rooftop solar panels on their own can predominantly generate all the energy a household needs. For most homes today, no, it cannot. As of today, the UK electricity price cap unit rate for direct debit customers is approximately 24 pence per kilowatt hour, with a daily electricity standing charge of around 57 pence. That means a household still buying electricity from the grid during high demand periods will likely pay higher charges even if they have solar panels on their rooftop. Alternatively, gas is capped at around 5 pence per kilowatt hour with a daily standing charge of about 29 pence, which is obviously cheaper than electricity. Undisputable, we all agree solar can reduce grid demand, but unless generation, storage and demand are aligned, it does not remove grid dependence, and that comes at a price. The first lie: solar panels will make you energy independent. You already know by now, if you have a rooftop solar, you still need electricity from the grid, because the grid will supply your electricity when your solar panels are not generating enough energy. Your solar output depends on daylight, the season, roof angle, shading, weather, and system design. Your household demand depends on behavior, heating system, appliances, number of occupants, electric vehicle charging, and the time of day. Right now, you must have realized that the two patterns do not automatically match. Your solar panel cannot supply your daily electricity demand without the support of the national grid. Your home export electricity at midday and buy electricity back in the evening. And if your export rate is lower than your import rate, your household will still pay a significant amount for energy bill. The truth: solar can reduce your grid electricity demand only when your usage pattern matches your generation pattern. So, what is the real cost of energy demand? During winter months, for example, you may have solar panels and still pay hundreds of pounds for grid electricity during the exact periods when your household needs power most. The second lie: Europe is generating enough solar for every home. In 2024, solar generation made up 11% of EU electricity and overtook coal, which was 10% of the EU electricity, a major shift in the European energy sector. In June 2025, solar became the EU's largest electricity source for the first time, generating 22.1% of EU electricity that month. But did you know those figures described grid-level generation? They do not prove that every individual home with solar panels has the right roof, a substantial money back after investment, export arrangement, or good battery storage. Grid-scale solar and domestic rooftop solar are not the same. At grid level, electricity can be pooled, balanced, traded, stored, curtailed, or moved through interconnectors. At household level, you are dealing with one roof, one demand profile, one tariff arrangement, one export rate, and one installation cost. The good news is, the Europe solar success proves solar is viable, but not how much you will pay or save. A grid can absorb solar from Spain, Germany, the Netherlands, or France and balance it against demand across millions of users. But one household cannot do that. If your home generates solar at midday but uses most electricity in the evening, you will still buy electricity at the retail price, and the standing charge does not disappear because you have solar panels. Then what is the truth? European solar growth can reduce fossil fuel dependence at system level, but it does not automatically erase your household's demand costs. The third lie: the bigger the system, the better. If your household installs more panels than it can use effectively, excess electricity may be exported at at a lower value than the electricity bought back later from the grid. A household occupied during the day will use more of its own solar generation, but if you work away from home from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., your solar panels will export more of the energy generated. You may use more of your generation if you have an electric vehicle and charge it during the time your solar is generating power. You may decide to get a battery storage, but only if the cost, cycle use, tariff and demand pattern make sense investment-wise. What can you do? Get a system that matches your household's actual consumption and tariff, because you may generate more electricity when your home does not need it, then buy electricity back later when your home does need it. What an irony. Even though you have a solar system on your roof, you will still pay high prices when demand occurs outside your solar's generation hours. What should you do? Determine the size of the panels based on how much expensive grid electricity is avoidable when the household needs power. The fourth lie: solar batteries will pay you back your cost of investment quickly. The logic is that a battery can improve the value of rooftop solar by storing excess daytime electricity for evening use. However, that depends on the cost of installation, the battery's capacity, the usable depth of discharge, warranty length, whole life cycle, import tariff, export tariff, your household evening demand, and whether smart tariffs are used properly. A poorly sized battery can be underused. An expensive battery can stretch the recovery payback period further than promised. A battery only has financial value if it displaces electricity that you would otherwise buy from the grid. For example, if a battery helps you avoid buying 5 kilowatt-hour from the grid every evening, the maximum avoided electricity unit cost is around £1.23 per evening. Across 250 useful evenings, you can save £308.38 per year. That is before considering battery degradation, actual usage pattern, tariff differences, and the cost of the battery itself. If your battery cost you several £1,000s, it will take you years to recover your money back. What you need is a battery that will reduce enough energy use from the grid that the cost of energy reduced over time is high enough to pay for the battery cost. The fifth lie: solar power can shield us from energy crises. Unfortunately, energy price inflations do not stay within the energy sector. The high cost moves through transport, food, heating, manufacturing, public services, supply chains, and borrowing interest. The ongoing Iran war surged energy prices that have now led to wider inflation pressure globally. When fuel costs rise, transportation becomes more expensive. When transportation becomes more expensive, food and goods become more expensive. These factors translate to businesses absorbing losses or increasing their prices, where the later is always the first option. When households face higher energy bills, pressure on wages rise. When inflation becomes high, banks' interest rates rise. There is the chain reaction. Energy is embedded in almost everything, and it controls the world economy. As typical households, we did not cause the energy price hike, but we are the ones paying for it through higher bills and higher prices. That is why installing solar panels will not give the needed energy security if the grid depends heavily on gas during peak periods. That is not to say solar can't reduce fossil fuel price when it's combined with storage, flexible demand, grid upgrades, interconnection, and other low-carbon generations. Solar power helps when it reduces the amount of expensive fossil fuel demand household systems needs during peak periods. What is needed is an electricity system where fossil fuel price spikes will have less power to infect the rest of the economy. The sixth lie: a home powered by solar is the true definition of sustainability. Solar panels is an asset on one property. Until a grid can deliver low-carbon electricity reliably and affordably across the society, that is when solar power generation is truly sustainable. A solar-enabled grid generating clean electricity from solar farms, rooftops, public buildings, commercial roofs and community schemes to support the wider system can power schools, hospitals, care homes, rented homes, flats, businesses, and households without suitable roofs for install. The society will become sustainable when a household in fuel poverty benefits from solar energy generated from grid. When a care home cannot simply stop using energy because solar output is low. When a hospital does not have to wait for sunshine before running a medical equipment. Sustainability cannot be defined only by private ownership of clean technology that lowers their own bill. It includes when energy system reduces costs and carbon for people who cannot afford the transition. The oil crises showed that energy dependence drives the economy. There is the need to build an energy system that is less exposed to volatile global fuel markets. Solar power can help do that, but requires a grid that can absorb solar energy when it is abundant, store it when necessary, shift demand when possible, and reduce fossil fuel backup when prices spike. If electricity demand peaks after sunset and the system still needs gas-fired generation to meet that peak, then solar has not fully broken the high electricity prices. What a proper solar power strategy looks like. An effective solar strategy has 4 parts. First, generation. From rooftops, on commercial roofs, solar farms, on car park canopies, public sector buildings, brownfield sites, and suitable land-based schemes. Second, storage. Domestic batteries where the economic results make sense, but also grid-scale batteries, thermal storage, vehicle-to-grid potential, and other flexibility technologies. Third, demand flexibility. Shifting electricity use to periods when clean power is abundant, then electric vehicles, hot water cylinders, heat pumps, cold storage, public buildings, and industrial processes can all contribute to the savings when managed properly. Fourth, grid investment. To create substations, distribution networks, transmission lines, interconnectors, digital controls, and faster connection processes. Without these 4 strategies, solar growth can become one-sided. If you found this helpful, subscribe to Smarter Green Living for practical videos on sustainable living, smarter homes, and better everyday decisions without the guilt, hype, or greenwashing. See you in the next one, and thank you for watching.